Hello everybody, in this video we're going to go over functionally how you use the functional settings in the MediTutor, and in addition we're going to go on the relevance, talk about the relevance of the functional settings in both a clinical environment and also in a sales environment, and why the functional tools are very powerful. So to begin with, we're going to a little bit technical. So we can click on the function button and we immediately see which devices are calibrated, or we can calibrate the devices. So let's take the hand tutor. Now we're limited immediately but purposely to fingers and wrists because they're the only joints that the hand tutor can work with. However, if we have a look at fingers, we can see that we have a visual interpretation of an exercise, of a task practice. So this is just doing a gripping maneuver with a digiflex. Okay, so a gripping against resistance. Now I can click through other functional tasks. For instance, this is a opposition movement or a pincer movement, and so forth. So here I'm doing an opposition with the middle finger and the thumb. Now if we have a look on the left hand side here, the clinician doesn't have to see exactly, or doesn't have to check which thumb or which digit or which joint is going to be used. It's automatically predefined within the settings. So we'll just go over that again. So if I take, for instance, now the opposition from my ring finger to my thumb, you can see here instantly ring finger and thumb is checked, and pinky to thumb, pinky is checked. Okay, so if we go to the grip against the digiflex, we can see that all the fingers are flexed, but the thumb is not flexed because you can see that there's no thumb movement. So let's just go backwards here. So the system automatically directs you into what joints the device can actually measure, and it gives you a choice of tasks, and then automatically sets that device for the joints that are going to be used. So if I click on wrist, then again we're going to have a series of tasks. For instance, this is extension and flexion of the wrist. Okay, so again the system, the imagery, the video gives you gives first of all the therapist an idea of how to use the device, okay, how to wear the device, how to support the forearm. So it's giving some advice to the client, to the therapist, and it's also giving them some options, so they can if you like, flick through and they can see different options. Okay, so we could do that same extension and flexion against resistance. That's good. Okay, oh, that's another way of doing it. Oh yeah, okay, so we can do that extension and flexion. That's another way of doing it against resistance. Okay, here, this is interesting here. Obviously this is a radian and ulnar deviation, and functionally we're gripping the pen. So here we can see that, okay, we're using the hand tutor. The hand tutor is wrist and extension. If we do that maneuver, or that actually doing some work with the pen, extension and flexion, we're working and practicing on the task of holding or gripping the pen, but also we're picking up that movement as we're doing flexion and extension. Okay, so the hand tutor will give you the MediTutor will give you the idea. Okay, we'll show the client, we'll show the therapist exactly to do this functional task. So that's why we call it functional task practice. This is how you can hold the pen, and the system will automatically direct onto wrist extension and flexion exercises. So if we go back now to other options, we can click on the 3D tutor. Now obviously we have many more options available because we have many more body parts, but the idea is the same. So clicking on the body part will give us a way of thumbing through the various functional tasks or the various ideas for functional tasks. For instance, this one, obviously we're using contralateral hip extension with forward flexion of the arm. Okay, so we're strengthening the back muscles and the abdominal muscles of the core, and it's telling you exactly where to put the device. Okay, and it's giving you the idea, oh yes, we can do that, and we can do a contralateral extension and flexion. And here you see the same, we can do an ipsilateral, and here we can do a side flex. So it's giving some ideas, but again, what's very, very convenient is that the clinician doesn't have to think about the sensor. They put it onto the body part, they ask the client to do that lateral flex, and the system knows exactly which setting in the 3DT to use. Then when we press next, we then go to task categories and task types. Okay, now we know that task type was we're moving from the left to the right, so we have to think about which task types the object is going to be moving from the right to the left. Now I've actually generated a separate video which actually looks at categorizing task types. Okay, so we can categorize them in terms of whether they're looking at the objects on the screen in the game going in a horizontal direction, or whether the objects in the screen are going in a vertical direction, whether it's going to be a continuous movement, or whether we're going to have to get to a target and hold for a specific amount of time. And the video is going to talk in more details as well about which goals and objectives clinically these games are going to meet. So what we've done is if we go we can go back to, again, we're going to click on the functional task icon, we're going to click on the device, we're going to click on the body part. Okay, so let's say we're going to click on shoulder, so we're going to run through again. Okay, this is obviously we're doing a shoulder movement. Okay, but again, the advice is that even if you put this on your lower extremity and do that elbow extension and flexion, obviously, and at the same time you're going to be strengthening your shoulder girdle muscles, then you're going to be able to pick up that movement. Okay, so if you put the sensor in the right place according to the GIF, and this functional task is giving the therapist an idea, they don't have to worry about the setup of the device. It's automatically. We then go to next. Then we think, okay, out of my previous knowledge, which functional task is going to be suitable to a vertical movement up and a vertical movement down of the object. Okay, so I can take something very simply. I can take the range game, which we all know is going to be a vertical and going down of the device, and here we can see that it's going to be a sit to stand, holding the chair, because that's what the functional task showed the therapist to do, and they have the freedom now of dictating their own time span of how long they want the client to rest in the standing position and how long they want them to rest while they're sitting. So what we're going to do is now we're going to just discuss now the benefits that the new functional tasks give to the clinicians, and obviously these benefits are what you as the sales force are going to pick up once you're talking to your clinicians. So when we go into the clinic and we have to do a demonstration, we can go into these functional tasks immediately, and we don't have to now explain and drill down on which sensors are in the device, which direction of movement, how do we calibrate to a particular direction of movement. We just instantly, visually, they will see the functional task. We'll put the device on according to where the functional task tells us to put the device, and we'll ask the client or the patient to do that movement, and immediately we can go on to the game, and it's a plug and play. They put the device on, very, very quick. They haven't understood exactly the technology behind the devices, but we've straight away showed them that within 2 or 3 clicks they can go into the system without understanding anything to do with the technology. Okay, so that's the major benefit, the quickness of being able to put on the device. So that's even in a clinical session or in a demonstration setting. The reason that you don't have to drill down in the early explanation and waste time in the early explanation, and you can impress with explaining that the system is a complete turnkey solution to functional tasks. Okay, so thank you very much for listening, and we're all available as a team to discuss, to show you in more detail how the functional tasks are employed, and to talk clinically as well about the functional tasks.